All right, let's dive into this Ethereum thing. You guys sent in some pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people were talking about it.
For sure. So what is it exactly?
Well, one of the sources you sent defines it as a community-run technology
Okay.
powering the cryptocurrency, Ether,
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
and thousands of decentralized applications. So it's pretty ambitious stuff.
Ambitious is right. I'm already intrigued. Where should we even begin with something this big?
Well, before we get too far, I think we got to start with the foundation. What is blockchain?
The tech behind it all, right?
Exactly. Think of blockchain like a digital ledger.
Okay.
But instead of being kept in one place, it's distributed across a whole network of computers.
Ah, so it's like everyone has a copy.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so secure.
Yeah.
Every transaction is recorded and verified by multiple parties.
So, like, changing anything would be almost impossible.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Any change would have to be reflected on every single copy of the ledger.
Gotcha, so it's like tamper-proof? What's the technical term for that?
Immutability. It's one of the core principles of blockchain technology.
Immutability. Got it. So how does Ethereum take this and become a platform?
Well, it takes a secure and transparent ledger and builds on it. It lets developers create decentralized applications.
Perhaps.
Yep, dApps, directly on the blockchain. These applications can operate on their own without like a central authority controlling them.
Okay, so that's where the whole decentralized thing comes in. I can already see how this could disrupt a lot of industries. But how's it different from Bitcoin? They both use blockchain, right?
They do, but their goals are different. Bitcoin was designed as, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, like a digital version of gold.
Digital gold, that's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, a store of value and a way to exchange money. But Ethereum is broader. It's more like a global computer that anyone can program on.
So Bitcoin is for payments, but Ethereum is for, well, anything you can code.
Yeah, one of your sources puts it as, imagine a bunch of friends putting money into a shared chest.
Okay.
But instead of just holding money, this chest can run any application you can think of.
Oh, I like that. So Bitcoin is a piggy bank and Ethereum is like a Swiss Army knife.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting. With smart contracts, they're like self-executing agreements written in code stored on the blockchain.
Smart contracts. Okay, that sounds futuristic. Can you break that down a little?
Sure. Imagine you're buying a car. Traditionally, there's a ton of paperwork, banks, lawyers.
Yeah, it can be a whole thing.
With a smart contract on Ethereum, the entire process could be automated. The terms of the sale, the payment, everything's coded in. Once the buyer does their part, boom, the contract executes, ownership is transferred, and the seller gets paid.
Wow, so it cuts out all the middlemen? That's amazing. It seems like the possibilities are endless.
But how do users actually interact with Ethereum? I remember the source mentioned something about different types of accounts. Right, so there are two main types of accounts in Ethereum.
Okay.
Externally owned accounts, or EOAs, and contract accounts.
EOAs and contract accounts. Okay, tell me more.
So EOAs are controlled by users, like you and me. We use them to send and receive Ether.
Ether being the cryptocurrency of Ethereum.
Yep, that's it. And to interact with smart contracts. So like your Ethereum wallet would be an EOA.
Okay, that makes sense. It's how I manage my Ether and get on the network. What about the contract accounts?
Contract accounts, they're not controlled by people. They're controlled by the code of the smart contracts themselves.
Wait, so they're like automated programs running on the blockchain. What do they actually do?
They're like the backbone of Ethereum. They act as agents carrying out the instructions in the smart contracts.
Like little robots making sure everything runs smoothly.
Kind of. For example, in that car buying example, the contract account would hold the car's ownership title until the buyer meets the terms. Then, bam, ownership is transferred automatically.
That's so cool. So how do these transactions actually work? The source mentioned gas. Does that mean I have to pay to use Ethereum?
You got it. Gas is the fuel for transactions. It's measured in tiny bits of Ether.
So every time I do something on Ethereum, I have to pay a gas fee. Why is that?
A couple of reasons. First, it stopped people from spamming the network.
Makes sense. Like if emails cost a tiny amount, we'd all be a lot more careful about what we send.
Exactly. And second, it rewards the miners.
Miners. Who are they?
They're the ones who keep the network secure. They use their computers to validate transactions and add new blocks to the blockchain.
It's like they're the accountants of the Ethereum world.
In a way, yeah. They solve complex math problems to do this, and the first one to solve it gets rewarded with Ether, including those gas fees we talked about.
So it's a competition, like a digital gold rush, but with math problems.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of that process, there's another important piece. the Patricia Merkle try.
Uh-oh, that sounds complicated.
It's not as bad as it sounds. Think of it like a super organized filing system.
Okay, I can work with that.
Like, imagine a massive library, right? Instead of searching every shelf for a book, you use the card catalog. It organizes everything and helps you find what you need quickly.
So it helps Ethereum work efficiently.
Exactly. It's one of the things that makes it so powerful and scalable. But before we get too far, I think we should talk about something that comes up a lot. Some people think cryptocurrencies are just a fad, you know, a bubble.
That's true. One of the sources I sent you talked about that. It seems like the real value is in the technology itself, not just the price of Ether.
You're right. While the price is volatile, the technology has so much potential.
So it's not about making a quick buck, it's about a fundamental change in how we do things.
Exactly. To really understand this, we need to look at some real-world applications. We're
Right.
talking revolutionizing gaming, empowering creators, transforming supply chains, the list goes on. But before we get into all that, let's just take a second to recap.
Okay, yeah, we've covered a lot. We started by talking about what Ethereum is and how blockchain works. Then we looked at how it's different from Bitcoin and the idea of decentralization.
Right, and then we got into smart contracts, those self-executing agreements. We also talked about the different types of accounts and how transactions work with gas fees.
Wow, we really did pack it in.
Yeah.
We even touched on the miners and that complex filing system. What was it called again?
The Patricia Merkle try.
Right. So I think we have a good foundation. Are we ready to jump into the real exciting stuff, the applications and the future possibilities?
Let's do it. I think you're going to be amazed by what we find.
Okay, I'm ready to be amazed. The stuff you sent me mentioned some really cool applications for Ethereum.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Like everything from changing how games work to how we manage supply chains. It's pretty mind-blowing. Where do we even begin?
Well, let's start with something you might be into. Gaming.
Okay.
Imagine a world where, as a gamer, you actually own your in-game stuff, like really own it.
I'm listening. I've spent way too much time grinding for rare items in games. What do you mean by really own it?
I mean, unique digital items, characters, virtual land, all secured on the blockchain. It's yours.
So I could, like, trade them or sell them outside the game?
That's the idea. Ethereum makes this possible with something called NFTs,
NFTs.
non-fungible tokens. They're unique digital tokens. Think of them like a deed of ownership for a digital item.
So it's like owning a rare trading card, but in the digital world.
Exactly. And we're just scratching the surface here. Imagine games where the whole economy is built on blockchain. Players can trade freely. Developers can build truly decentralized games.
Wow, it sounds like the future of gaming. But I can also see how this could disrupt the industry. You know, game companies usually control all that stuff.
Oh, definitely. And it's not just gaming. Content creation is another area ripe for change.
What do you mean?
Think about platforms like YouTube or Spotify.
Mm.
Creators have to give up a chunk of their earnings.
Yeah, the platform takes a cut is how they make money.
Right. But with Ethereum, you can create decentralized platforms where creators connect directly with their audience. No more middleman.
So musicians could sell their music directly to fans.
Exactly. They could set their own prices, build their own communities. There's a platform called Audius that's already doing this.
Audius, I've never heard of that.
It's a decentralized music streaming platform built on Ethereum. Artists keep ownership of their music and get rewarded directly when people listen.
That's really cool. Are there other platforms like this for other types of content?
Absolutely. There's Mirror, which is focused on writing.
So writers can publish directly to the blockchain.
Yep. They can create a permanent record of their work, and they can even monetize it in new ways.
Wow, this is really opening my mind to new possibilities. But what about bigger industries? How could Ethereum impact them?
Supply chain management is a huge one.
Supply chains.
Yeah. Imagine being able to trace the origin of any product you buy, verify if it's ethically sourced, even track its carbon footprint.
That would be amazing. I'd love to know where my food comes from, or if the clothes I buy were made ethically.
Ethereum can make that happen. It creates a transparent record of every step in the supply chain.
So no more shady dealings.
In theory, yeah. There are companies already exploring this. Provenance is one. They use Ethereum to track products from raw materials to the finished good. And there's IBM Food Trust, which is focused on food safety and traceability.
So less waste and more trust for consumers. I like it. What else?
The Internet of Things, or IoT.
IoT, that's like smart homes and all those connected devices, right?
Exactly. As more devices get connected, security becomes a big issue. Ethereum can provide a decentralized way for them to communicate securely.
So my smart fridge could order groceries directly from the store without going through a central server.
Yep. And it goes way beyond that. Think about self-driving cars coordinating with each other, or smart cities managing traffic and energy use. Ethereum provides the trust and transparency to make this happen.
It sounds like we're talking about a truly interconnected world.
We are. But of course, there are challenges too.
Like what?
Scalability is one. As the network gets bigger, with more transactions happening, things can slow down. Gas fees can go up.
So it's like traffic jams on the blockchain.
Yeah, kind of. But developers are working on solutions, things like layer 2 scaling and sharding.
Those sound pretty technical.
They are. But the basic idea is to make the network more efficient. Another challenge is the complexity of building dApps.
So it's not like anyone can just whip up a dApp in their spare time.
Well, it does take some technical know-how. But the good news is the Ethereum community is really helpful. There are tons of resources and people willing to teach you.
So it's like a big collaborative learning environment.
Exactly. And that's one of the best things about Ethereum. It's not just a technology, it's a movement, a community of people who believe in this idea of decentralization.
I'm starting to get it. It's not just about the tech, it's about the potential for change.
You got it. And speaking of potential, one of the sources you sent talked about actually building a dApp as the next step.
Mm-hmm.
If you could create any dApp, what would it be?
That's a tough one. But if I could solve any problem, I'd build a dApp that helps people manage their health data securely. Give them more control and privacy.
That's a great idea. It's amazing to think about how Ethereum can be used for good. But I'm also curious about the practical side of things. How do you actually go about building a dApp?
Yeah, one of the sources touched on that, and it seemed pretty complicated.
It does involve a learning curve, for sure. But the beauty of Ethereum is that it's open and accessible. Anyone can learn. Shall we break down the process a bit?
Yes, please.
Mhm.
I'm sure our listeners are eager to know how this all works. All right, let's break it down. A step-by-step guide would be awesome.
Okay, so let's say you have this brilliant idea for a dApp,
Okay.
and it's going to revolutionize, I don't know, sustainable fashion.
Sustainable fashion, I like it. So where do I start?
First things first, you got to define the problem you're trying to solve.
So maybe my D app helps people track where their clothes come from and rewards brands that are, eco-friendly.
Perfect. You've defined your problem and the core function of your dApp. What's next?
Well, then I'd need to figure out how the whole system works. Like, how do people prove where a shirt came from? What makes a brand sustainable?
That's where smart contracts come in. You got to translate that logic into code using a language called Solidity.
Solidity.
It's specifically for smart contracts. Think of it like writing instructions for a computer.
Okay, so I gotta learn how to code in Solidity. That sounds like a challenge.
It is. But there are tons of resources out there. Tutorials, courses, even open source code you can learn from.
So it's doable. What happens after I've written my smart contracts?
Time to build and test. You need a user interface, the part people actually see and use. Could be a website, a mobile app, whatever fits your app.
Right, so it needs to look good and be easy to use.
And of course, you got to test everything like crazy. Make sure it works right and those smart contracts are secure.
Yeah, security is key, especially when dealing with people's information and brands' reputations.
Absolutely. Luckily, there are tools for that. Truffle and Ganache are popular ones. They let you test everything on your own computer before going live.
So it's like a practice run before the big show?
Exactly. Okay, so you've built your amazing sustainable fashion dApp, tested it, and you're ready to share it with the world.
Let's do it. What's the final step?
You got to deploy it to the Ethereum network.
What does that mean?
It means publishing your smart contracts to the blockchain, making them accessible to everyone.
So it's like setting my creation free.
In a way, yeah.
Mm.
Once it's deployed, your dApp runs on its own, following the rules you coded.
That's incredible.
It is pretty cool. And anyone with an internet connection can use it. It's truly a global platform.
Wow, I never thought I'd understand how to build a dApp, but you've made it so clear. This whole deep dive has been amazing. We started with the basics of blockchain, then explored all these real-world applications.
Yeah, we even figured out how to build a dApp. It's been quite a journey.
It has. For our listeners who are now feeling inspired, what's the biggest takeaway from all of this?
I think the most important thing to remember is that Ethereum is so much more than just a cryptocurrency. It's a way to build a more decentralized future, one where individuals have more power and control,
A future where we can create things that benefit everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And whether you're a developer, an artist, or just curious about this tech, Ethereum is a chance to be part of something truly transformative.
Beautifully said. And to our listeners, if you're feeling inspired, don't stop here. Keep learning, keep exploring. Maybe you'll be the one to build the next groundbreaking D app. The future is out there, waiting to be built.